It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
Don't let the Twins get hot. That's what I was told.
Oh, man. Wow.
Don't let them get hot. Can't let this team get hot. Series win over the Mets, the lowly Braves next, White Sox after that. Just a basic question for the both of you. And I know we absolutely have filleted this team for 95% of the season so far. And by the way, hit that like button and subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show as we inch closer to 5,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. Did yesterday's series win against the Mets do anything for you? How you feel about this team? Did it do anything at all? As the needle even just a little bit moved from where you have been in terms of how you feel about this team maybe being a contender or being legitimate? Did it do anything for you?
I want to hear Judd's answer. I'm curious where Judd's head's at here.
Not really, because they need to do so much more to prove that yes, there are some things. In fact, I could, at some point in this show, I was thinking this morning, there's a small, it's not a handful, but there's a few things that I do really like they're individual things for the most part. But there are some things that I do like. But as far as like needle moving, I think the tide has really turned. I've seen enough. No, I'm not there yet. Do I think it was absolutely positively necessary, like to do something to just say, hey, we're still here, we can still play? I hate to say it, but the bar as of now, when I picked up my old school Star Tribune today and looked at the baseball standings, was how clear are they of the Chicago White Sox? I mean, that's a really pathetic thing, but a few days ago, they were actually in last place the Twins were in the Central. So to answer your question, no, it did not. But does it at least make me a little more curious? Yeah, that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think, okay. Positive Phil here, okay?
Oh, wow.
Let's listen. There's some. First of all, Positive Phil has been driving the Ty France bandwagon since the day he was acquired, okay? So I should take this moment to celebrate.
It's you.
To tell all you, I told you.
He had struck out 3 times before he drove
baseball,
in.
dude. Who cares?
The winning run. I'm just saying he had
And
put
was
the ball
0 for
in
12.
play.
He struck out a couple times.
And was
in
0 for
baseball.
12. I'm just saying, Positive Phil.
Guys go through slumps.
Positive Phil has to have his buddy Negative Judd offset it a little bit.
But you can't come in and say, well, he struck out a couple times in a baseball game.
No, he struck out 3 times.
Who cares? He strikes out sometimes, and then he delivers in the
hold
clutch
on
when you need it.
Hold on a second, Positive Phil. You're the guy who has acknowledged it helps to put the ball in play, okay?
Yeah, and
I didn't say he was 0 for 3. I said he had struck out 3 times.
In the highest leverage situation of, okay, is it fair to say, because this is what I was thinking for an answer to Declan's question, does the 2-game winning streak and winning a series against the Mets, does it completely change the narrative and the reality of where their season's at right now, especially with some of the injuries now? Wallner's on the injured list, so it's like Wallner, Royce Lewis on the injured list, your number 1 starter. So there's some major things on top of the 5-12 hole they dug themselves before winning these 2 games that make it really hard to see this team clawing back. But I think what you can say is, if they didn't win these last 2 games, their season would have been over before April 18th. They were 5-12 going into the second game in that Mets series. And I know it's a 162-game season. Right, but when you're 9 games under 500 and you don't have the Dodgers 26-man roster and you got injuries all over the place, it is fair to say that their season was actually on the line these last 2 games. And it's possible that my guy Ty France came up in the highest leverage situation of the season, where it's like, if you lose 2 of 3 and now you're 6-13 and you got all these guys injured, maybe people think I'm just being like a hyperbolic panic alarmist here, but I just think they've been teetering on the edge of season over for the last week or so. And so the best thing I can say is they've kind of saved their season by taking 2 of 3 from the Mets. Now let's see what happens against the Braves. They're on very, very thin ice right now early in the season.
Braves are next, who are up honestly have been way more disappointing than the Twins. I mean, they're probably the biggest disappointment in baseball up to this point. I mean, this was a team that people were picking to win the World Series, or at least maybe threaten the Dodgers in the National League, and they've just been terrible. When you look at also some of the injuries that have taken place, so we just, Phil kind of talked about that. So you have Wallner going on the injured list with the hamstring issue. I'm not sure the severity of that. I mean, my God, we got hamstring issues all over the place on this team. Obviously, Royce Lewis had a significant hamstring issue. Now Matt Wallner's on the IL. I believe Pablo Lopez should be in line to potentially start his next time, or after he's cleared from the 10-day injured list and is able to be activated. So I believe Pablo's okay, but man, hamstrings are very tricky. You have Willi Castro, who had some oblique tightness. That's why he was removed yesterday for Mickey Gasper, and we'll see how he feels today. Carlos Correa was able to field yesterday. You're going to talk about a $35 million defensive replacement in the 8th and 9th inning. That took place, but it sounds like he's not going on the injured list. But he has been dealing with a wrist issue since last season that just flares up. I'm not really sure how that is a 8-month thing, but that's a thing. So there are some injuries here. I mean, even if they get the lowly Braves and White Sox next, who, by the way, like, all things considered, they should win borderline 4 out of those 6 games against those two teams, at least how they've been playing right now. But can they also survive without Wallner, without Royce Lewis, without Willi Castro, maybe without a Carlos Correa? I mean, the injuries are starting to pile up, too. That is a thing that they have to kind of monitor.
Well, and I did find it intriguing that they tried to sort of explain away or just basically, I guess the right words are gloss over the Correa thing. Like, I found that to be really intriguing because they also said, they said, well, it's from late last year. It flares up at times, not that big of a deal. But then in the same breath said, I believe the Correa spot in the order was due up 4 spots after Ty France in the 10th there. And they essentially said, we didn't want him to have to hit. It's like this seems to me like the beginning of, oh, no, we got a problem here. And quite frankly, and I know fans that he had hit the ball hard, but quite frankly, this seems also like it would explain some of his struggles potentially, because I would guess
Absolutely.
I'm going to go and just take a wild stab here, okay? If you're a baseball player with a bad wrist, I'm going to guess that affects your ability to swing the bat. So, like, I understand they're trying to downplay it, but I think we might have gotten our answer for some of the problems with the fact that it flared up now and it's out there publicly.
Well, the data speaks very loudly, and in the absence of an explanation, which the wrist might be the explanation here, you've been left to wonder, is he just off to a small sample size bad start to the season, which sometimes happens with guys? Is he dealing with like foot ankle stuff that has been a concern since, the day he signed? Or is it something else? And if you look at some of the data, Carlos Correa in 66 plate appearances this year compared to the previous 3 seasons with the Twins, and I'll compare to last year when he was mostly healthy until he wasn't, and then when he wasn't, boom, he stopped playing. His line drive percentage down from 27% last year to 19% this year. His ground ball rate, 44% last year, up to 55% this year. So way fewer line drives, a lot more ground balls. Relative to his career rate, too, it's even worse. It's about the same, 45% up to 55%. Another thing that's kind of telling, he's been a guy that goes opposite field quite a bit. Like, he'll go up the middle opposite. When his swing is honed, he's feeling good. He'll drive the ball the other way. Only 11% opposite field rate compared to 25% last year. So hard hit rate, the ground ball thing, lack of line drives, not going the other way. All of it feels like there's something underlying that's not just bad luck. And when the wrist thing came up, it's like, okay, I guess A, that makes sense. There's a reason why he's been off to a slow start, but B, it's just another ailment for a guy that's been unable to stay on the field for large chunks of his Twins career here. So I don't know. It's like great that we have an explanation, but it's also like, okay, he's got foot, he's got ankle, and now he's got wrist that's dating back to last year, 8 months.
It's sort of like the Brooks Lee thing, right? I've got a bad back. I'm going to have to deal with it for the rest of my life. Dude, you are in your early 20s and you play baseball where your back is essential. Like, the more that you know about these things, the more that I would say that they set off bells and whistles. Like, they don't make me feel good. Brooks Lee, bad back. I don't feel good about that. Carlos Correa, now we got foot problems. And I guess what you could sort of explain is right now, at least, mysterious wrist problems, Dex.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you're asking if Sports Dad is concerned, Sports Dad is fretting here in St. Louis Park.
Also, like, a bad wrist would also completely eliminate your power. It'd be really hard to drive the ball. You'd probably start overcompensating because your swing isn't going to be as quick. And so, like, the fact that he has 5 extra base hits in the first 3 weeks of the season, no home runs, is telling too.
And Phil, to that point as well, I believe all 5, if I'm not mistaken, are doubles.
Yep.
Which might explain why a few of them are doubles and not home runs as well.
Yeah.
Because the power just wouldn't be there. Like, I don't blame him. I'm not mad about that. But I mean, this helps me understand a lot more than I did before he talked about this.
So they did end up making a move. They acquired Jonah Bride from the Marlins, who he made their opening day roster this year. He actually was really productive last season with the Fish too, especially against left-handed pitching. He had a 800 OPS in 71 games against righties. He actually almost had an 1,000 OPS. He had over 300. They have some options here in how they wanted to deal with these corresponding roster moves. He hasn't been officially added to the 26-man roster quite yet. He's been acquired by the Twins. But digging around, it sounds like, because I asked of multiple people yesterday, well, does this clear a path for maybe Emmanuel Rodriguez or Luke Keeschel, who are their 2 most ready-made prospects that are a call away in St. Paul? And I was shot down by every single person that basically said, no, we don't want to rush them up here. And Keeschel, I 100% actually get it. He's coming off Tommy John. When he plays the field, he only plays like 5 innings at a time. He's also kind of I don't know where he fits in positionally, like long-term with the Twins. He plays some second. He can play some center. He DHs. I think he's mixed in a little bit at first base, but it's hard to kind of find a spot for him right now. And then with Emmanuel Rodriguez, I mean, this guy's been hurt for, over 50% of his minor league career. They want as many at-bats as possible. So when the news came down, Wallner was going on the IL, and hell, things can change too. Maybe if everyone's starting to get hurt, they might have no choice but to call up Keeschel or Rodriguez. It sounds like the Twins are hesitant to do that, even with injuries piling up. They want those guys to get as many minor league at-bats as possible for right now. But you will see them in 2025 at some point.
I'm gonna be first in line as a Jonah Bride stan.
Okay.
He's a guy that, I don't know, he'll be a part-time player. They might wind up DFAing him at some point, but they desperately need players who can play professional baseball, Major League Baseball caliber at bats. And I know he's off to a really bad start with the Marlins, and that's part of the reason why they said goodbye. He's in 45 plate appearances, has 4 hits so far this year. But in his career, and he's like 29, he kind of is who he is as a player. He had the good year last year with Miami. Look at Positive Phil. Listen, I'm pumping the tires of a random utility guy they just traded for out of desperation.
I was going to say another, yes.
But I'll tell you, in the minor leagues and in college, going back to South Carolina in the SEC, he has been a walk drawing on base machine and a guy that puts the ball in play. And right now, you know what this offense needs? Dudes who can just move the chains, work a count. Give Joe Ryan give Joe Ryan 30 extra seconds to catch his breath in the dugout, and maybe get on base a little bit. So, yeah, I think this is. It's for like cash consideration. So you're, the cheap poll ads once again pushing back at the narrative, but you know what? Their season's kind of on the line. They got a rash of injuries, so go get a dude who can maybe give you some at bats here and draw a walk once in a while. I kind of like this move.
This is an outstanding move for the Random Twin segment. This is an out. Jonah Bride,
Bank
I
this
guarantee
one,
you,
for sure. Yeah.
2026, this guy is going to make the random twin for sure.
Yeah. You know what's funny, by the way?
Spent time in the National League.
You know who? So he was in college. He was like, very little power. So he started for 3 years for South Carolina in the SEC. So like big boy college baseball. And over those 3 years, he hit 11 total home runs. So even in college, he wasn't like a big time masher. But he was a guy that would grind at bats. He would he'd draw walks, and he was kind of a singles doubles guy. Not the most toolsy guy. So guess who drafted him in the 23rd round? The Oakland Athletics. Classic like Oakland Athletics.
Yep.
Moneyball, going back 20 years.
We can move him around. Yeah, absolutely.
He's got some position flexibility. He can play all over the infield.
So, first, second, third? Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't think I saw shortstop.
I think more DH and first base than third base.
He played with Miami last year. He did play 80 innings at third base. So they threw him out there for a few games at least. In his minor league career, he has actually played the most. Let's see here. Yeah, he's played the most innings by far at third base throughout his minor league career. But I don't know that we'll see where the Twins wind up putting him. But I am call me a Jonah Bride stan right off the gate. I'm standing
did not
first
have that
in line.
I'm skeptical.
Card.
I'm still skeptical.
I mean, and to be honest, if the injuries weren't piling up, I think it'd be time to put an end to the Mickey Gasper experience. I don't think we need to see much more of that. I know he's a switch hitter and he had a great spring, and that's an awesome story. But if the injuries weren't piling up here, I don't know if Mickey Gasper would be making the trip to Atlanta.
Dex, do you think that if and now Gasper is the all-important, if nothing else, can put on the tools of ignorance as he did a couple nights ago, late in the game and catch.
Tools of ignorance.
But do you think if Jose Miranda just stands on second base Saturday, I believe, or Sunday, I forget which day it was, Saturday. But if he just stands there, okay, and doesn't get himself tagged out, is Gasper in St. Paul right now?
Maybe. I mean, even though Miranda had that embarrassing gaffe and honestly deserved to be sent down, he wasn't hitting at all. He's a liability with the glove. It's a pick your point. Personally, as of right now, I don't want either of those guys on a 26-man roster. If you're asking me, I don't think either of those two guys should be on a contending or supposed to be contending 26-man roster. I mean, Jose Miranda hit his first home run in 80 games at one point this year too.
Yeah, July 3rd or something like that. Yeah.
So I wouldn't really go too far into that.
Wait. We have to talk about this, you guys. Jose Miranda's injury.
Oh yeah.
Can we please talk about? We have not done this yet.
He was at Target carrying a pack of water bottles.
Yes, just as I did a couple of days ago. And guess what? Sports Dad did at 55, the tender age of 55. He managed to navigate the water bottles to the cart, to the car, into the house without being hurt.
Is this one of those big cases where it's 18 water bottles and the plastic is wrapped on top?
Those things are difficult to carry. Let's just be honest. Those things can be very difficult.
They're heavy.
Yeah,
they are.
Do you grab from the bottom? Do you grab from the top of the silicone?
Here's my problem.
Wrapping,
He starts to drop it, okay? So the injury occurs, he starts to drop it, he then clutches, he double clutches to catch it and injures himself re-catching it. First of all, if it starts to fall, you got to let it go. It's water. It's not going to fizz. There's no problems here. You got to let it go. Just back up and let it go.
Yeah, is this the worst week of his professional career?
Well, got to be.
You have a blooper-worthy gaffe walking away from second base. You have very minimal offensive production, and that combination gets you demoted. And then you wind up on the injured list, hurting your hand, walking away from Target with a case of water bottles.
It's got to be the worst.
It's pretty rough.
It is on. I mean, there's been some goofy stuff, right?
Did Travis Hafner hurt his back one time walking up steps, or some weird stuff?
Who was the guy who was a pretty good player? I want to say he was with the Rockies. Supposedly was carrying deer meat upstairs and hurt himself. Aguilera once, I believe, was put on at the time the DL because he was packing up to leave spring training and lifted the suitcase wrong and wrenched his back. I mean, this is top 5, right?
Who was that? Clint Barmas.
Yeah,
Was
Clint
it Clint
Barmas.
Barmas?
Nice, good player. Yeah, nice call. Great call. Yep, good player at the time.
Boy, yeah, Clint Barmas was. I think it was Clint Barmas.
I think it was deer. I think it was like deer meat. He had like been hunting, something like that. But I mean,
Dude.
this in my book, the recatch of the water is a top 5 type
It
of
just
like,
gets unnecessary. Yeah, and the environmentalists would say you're really not helping the earth by buying that many bottles of water anyway. So it's all this plastic.
Sports dad can't really comment on that.
Yeah, listen, that's why I recycle. I fill these back up
good.
with water here, and then I
That's
throw them
awesome
back
for
to
you.
pollute the earth.
Not me. Hey, Stella, come get my water bottle. Put it in the regular garbage.
A few other things here that we should get into on the SKOR North Twins Show. Hit that like button and subscribe button, but also a shout out to our friends at Underdog. Promo code SKOR, SKOR. Baseball is back on Underdog. You can ride higher or lower on hits, on RBI, on strikeouts. You can even get creative with first inning situations. Plus, on Underdog, if you want to mix and match, they have some special promos going on right now, too, for the NBA playoffs. So if you want to check that out, you can at Underdog. Go download it. It's promo code SKOR, SKOR, so it gets you the deposit match. It supports the SKOR North Twins Show and SKOR North as well. Go down the Underdog app, get in on the fun. Promo code SKOR, SKOR.
North American Banking Company also powering these Twins takes here today. 6 locations in the Twin Cities. We forgot to mention, too, that so Trevor Plouffe is spring breaking with his family. So I know we said that he was going to be back on Thursday this week. He is. We told him, go hang out with your family, dude. The Twins will be there, we think anyways, when you come back next Tuesday. So we'll get back to our Trevor Plouffe conversations. But North American Banking Company, it's a Minnesota-based banking company since 1998 with locations in Maple Grove, Roseville, Shoreview, Hastings, Woodbury, and 50th in France. And they specialize in personal relationships and cutting-edge online tools. So if you're in the market for maybe a new bank, you're not happy with your current experience, you're looking for just a better experience with the basics, checking and savings, or maybe you're looking to finance something bigger, plan for something bigger, go to nabankcode.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankcode.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Grandpa's Barbecue, too, in the mix today.
Yes, Grandpa's Barbecue. You can get so many different flavors. Yeah, they have handcrafted, high-quality sauces, sweet barbecue, Mill City Steakhouse blend, Northwoods all-purpose blend, Northern blend. You can go to grandpasbarbecue.com to see all of that variety. Plus, Twin Show listeners get free shipping on orders over $40. And then all proceeds also at Grandpa's Barbecue go to xeroderma pigmentosum, which is a rare genetic disorder that can be life-threatening when exposed to UV in forms of light and other LED light sources. So they also have a nice little nonprofit source there. So go to grandpasbarbecueshop.com to place your order. Let's talk about some Harrison Bader, who Phil's been standing for Ty France, rightfully so. He's been arguably the most important person in the lineup. Harrison Bader, who's also had some big knocks. He was 2 for 3 yesterday. He could have had 2 runs scored, but the glove, which has been humongous for the Twins. So we know the yips that are happening with the pitching staff, already 6 errors committed. But having Harrison Bader in left field has been huge. His threat on the base pass has also been huge. But fielding alone, Harrison Bader leads Major League Baseball in defensive runs saved. Individually, he already has 6 defensive runs saved for the Twins, which has been gigantic. So after years of, I went back because I saw Aaron Gleeman tweet Byron Buxton, Harrison Bader, and Deshaun Kersey Jr., who's also a very good fielder. Like Matt Wallner is a good fielder, but Deshaun Kersey Jr. is also a really good fielder. Is legitimately one of the best outfield trios the Twins have had in the Target Field era. I went back and I found a game in 2014 that had an outfield of Josh Willingham, Danny Santana, and Oswaldo Arcia. And boy, have we come a long way from those butchers in the field for the most part. So Harrison Bader's presence, at least fielding-wise, he made another great diving catch yesterday. Byron Buxton even was said after the game how impressed he is and how amazing it is to have a Gold Glove center fielder that's playing left field for you. Now that he's played a handful of games, I do want to pick his brain just about the challenges, or I guess there haven't been much challenges for him playing left, but it's been a tougher position for other Twins players to play. He makes it look incredibly easy. And man, you save some runs there. You have two incredible outfielders in Buxton and Harrison Bader who have 1-goal gloves. It makes pitching staff's life easier, and it saves runs. Literally, he leads the MLB in defensive runs saved.
Yeah, and he gunned a guy at the plate as well on what I thought was a terrible send by the Mets third base coach, but it was a nice play still, and it was a great throw. So this is something the show has been harping on for how long, Phil? 4 years, 5 years? Like the Bader signing. This guy's not as good, or was not as good, but he was certainly incredibly valuable at the time. The Michael Taylor signing. Like, there has never been, I get that 2014 outfield was a bunch of basically statues, but let's just go back to last year. Let's go back to last year when they thought that Manuel Margot would be a serviceable replacement, and he had gotten hurt in Tampa, went and played again, didn't play well, and the Twins were like, okay, we'll chance it, right? I mean, how long have we been talking about the fact that it is imperative to have, especially for a team where you don't have to pay a ton for a guy like Bader, to have an outfield like this? Like it's somewhat frustrating to me to watch this in the sense that this is what you should always do, because it's not like he's breaking the bank, right? And I think that the origins, you guys, of this discussion between Phil and I go back to the radio show circa 2011, 2010, when the Rays basically had three guys that could play center field in their outfield, and you watched them athletically. It was phenomenal. And again, they weren't all highly, highly paid. So yes, I think he's been great. He definitely brings a coverage ability that a center fielder would have to left. But this to me is one of the most easiest things, because it's not like, oh my God, yeah, he's good, but it's a 5-year contract and he's costing a ton. This to me should be, for teams like the Twins, a no-brainer every year. You've got to bring in a guy like this outfield-wise. And if you get offense, that's awesome. But yes, Harrison Bader right now is, as you look, and the starting pitching staff, I think we all agree in the past, week plus, has really improved. A big reason why is you've got a guy in left field who can save your bacon and is a great compliment to Buxton, who also, to his credit, I think Buxton might be the highlight of the season, just from the fact that he is playing healthy. And he, again, is going to get, like, we take it for granted. He is making catches that if he's not out there, and for a long time, were doubles.
Yeah, real quick on Buxton. Kind of crazy that if you take, let's see here. So he has scored 15 runs. He has 14 hits, 2 walks drawn, and he's been hit by 2 pitches. Mm-hmm. So he has earned his way on base through those means 18 times. Now, I'm trying to remember, like, there's probably been a fielder's choice or like a reach on error here and there.
Yesterday, I think.
So he's probably been on base more than, let's call it 20-ish times this season. He's scored 15 runs. And some of that is like, yeah, credit to the guys behind you for putting the ball in play or whatnot. But it's the stolen bases are coming back. The just aggressiveness and taking the extra base. We saw that highlight reel play from last week where he's scrambling around third base and he's not even sliding into home plate. So, yeah, this is kind of some vintage Byron Buxton, some everyday Byron Buxton, and we'll see if that continues. I have just on the outfield defense front, is this a crazy question? All right, this might sound ridiculous on the surface, but if the Twins are trying to figure out, all right, how do we keep digging out of this hole? What is our most likely path to winning as many games as possible here, especially while we try to get Matt Wallner back, and if can we somehow stay close to 500 until Royce Lewis comes back in the lineup? They're not going to, even if a couple of these guys turn around, like, they're not going to have a fearsome lineup without Royce Lewis. There's too many dudes in this lineup. Even like Ty France is like giving you some production, but he's not going to be like a 900 OPS guy or that, right? I would lean into going all in on defense. Like, against right-handed pitching especially, I would have Deshaun Kiersey Jr. in right field against pretty much all right-handed pitchers because he's a center fielder playing right field, and he's played a bunch of right field. Buxton in center and Harrison Bader, and I would have 3 center fielders. I'd have the best outfield defense in baseball to start with my blueprint. The infield defense is a little trickier. It's like, okay, if Correa is in and Brooks Lee is in, you feel good about those guys, right? But I would start every day with my lineup card. Instead of starting with maybe the offensive matchups, I would start with who are the best defenders I can put on that field to prevent runs from being scored. The fastest, best base runners to take extra bases when I do get guys on base. And I know that Deshaun Kiersey Jr. at age 28 has proven nothing as a major league hitter, but I would start there. Is it crazy to say that I would just start with all-in defense, run prevention, and then kind of worry about scoring runs as a secondary? And maybe you have to just find better ways to manufacture runs. Maybe you have to become a much more aggressive base stealing team than you've kind of ramped it up a little bit in the first 3 weeks. What do you guys think?
So, number one, Matt Wallner is a good fielder. Like I don't. He might not be on the level of Bader and Buxton for sure. That's a given. But I'm okay with Matt Wallner playing, if he was healthy, obviously, every day in right field. He's on the injured list now. But as of now, like Trevor Larnach's easily their weakest fielding outfielder. Like he doesn't move very well. His range is slower. He had the turf toe issues last year. And in general, like he is probably just a better designated hitting option than he is playing left field. With Kiersey, he is an ultimate, defensive replacement opportunity. I don't know. It's tough because, right, you want to see him get at bats, so you can't really say like he's proved nothing at the plate, but he also hasn't had the opportunity to prove a lot at the plate. But this idea, even with not even just going in on defense, yesterday was the most aggressive I have ever seen the Twins on the bases, I think, in years. And not just from a stolen base standpoint, from taking the extra base, running home. Ryan Jeffers, and I know there was 2 outs, scored from second on a ball that went 70 feet up the right field on the first baseline. Didn't even escape the infield because he's hustling and going all full go. If they lean into that type of stuff, if they lean into taking extra bases, and then also prioritizing defense, which I feel like is you got the outfield defense in Bader and Buxton and Kiersey, which is great. And then you've had these just absolutely embarrassing PFP moments, which are also killing you because that literally has prevented you from winning some games and blowing some games. But in terms of like leaning in to base stealing and base running and defense, that we talked about identity in the preseason, that might have to be their new identity if they want to contend.
And one other question about this, because on Wallner, Wallner's not like a bad butcherous right fielder, and he has an arm, but he doesn't have the range of any of those other 3 guys we just mentioned. Mm-hmm. Like Kiersey has a better range. Mm-hmm. Larnach's been your primary DH so far this year, and it's just not like he's 28 and he's had some little flashes here and there. Would you be better off with when Wallner comes back, Wallner in right, generally speaking here, against like right-handed pitching, Wallner in right and Larnach continuing to be unable to do anything offensively as your DH, or Kiersey's defense in right, cross your fingers on, get on base, and let's green light. Dude, he steals in the minor leagues. He's been a 40, I think maybe a 50 stolen base guy. And then Wallner becomes your designated hitter. Would you be a better team with Wallner in right, Larnach at DH, or outfield defense in right, cross your fingers, and then Wallner at DH?
I think you'd have to give Kiersey enough at bats to find out. Like, I don't know, and I've been impressed so far, but obviously small sample size. I do think the one thing is in target field. I think there's a very important thing here too. I think Bader has to just play. I wouldn't be concerned about matchups. I would just say, dude, you're playing. I do think, though, that part of your defensive coverage of the outfield conversation comes to the ballparks as well. Target field, you're fine. Wallner and right, because as long as you can play the caroms there, because he's got a cannon for an arm, which I absolutely love. Buxton can cover so much space both ways, and because Bader can cover left, which, by the way, as Dex talks about a lot, and he's exactly right, is a very tough field at home. Now, if you're in a ballpark where right field has a lot of coverage, the Kersey thing, I think, does become far more of a discussion. Wallner's more athletic than we think, but there still could be a conversation there. But I think at home, yes, I think that is probably true. And the one thing defensively, so where are the holes? If Correa can play shortstop, you're fine. In fact, you're good. Brooks Lee, I think at third base, if his back holds up, absolutely fine. I think he's really good there. Second base is an issue. You don't really have defense there. It's just a wild card. I don't think Castro is great there. Julian, we've talked for 2 years, and he's tried to improve, and he probably has improved a bit, but he's still a liability there. So second base, you're sort of screwed to a certain degree because I don't know that there's an answer there. But Phil, to your question, I would say this. I think the outfield defense, as long as Bader and Buxton are playing, would be based on the room in right field in the ballpark in which you're in. I think at target field, Wallner absolutely fine, but I do think there's a case to be made that situationally the Kersey idea might be worth trying. And if he proves he just can't hit, that's fine. He proves it, but we don't know that right now.
By the way, Jonah Bride in his career between Oakland and Miami at first base, second base, and third base, like a 4-year kind of part-time sample size, has been essentially a league average defensive player, defensive runs saved. So that's another piece of good news defensively is if you've got some dudes, Julian, at either first, second, or third, that you feel like are just well below average defensive fielders, well, Jonah Bride can be a professional fielder at those positions. Mm-hmm. So I would be looking long and hard at, like I said, Trevor Larnach, you are a designated hitter with an OPS below 500. So unless you start to hit, we're going to put someone in the we'll find a way to just move someone else to DH and put some better gloves and some faster speed and range out in the field at target field.
On the bases quickly. I do think, though, and especially with the predicament of this team currently, I do think that the most important thing, though, is you need to, and we saw this just detailed perfectly on Wednesday, you need to lean into the Buxton experience there completely. I'm going to give you one play in particular on Wednesday that absolutely, it blew me away, not because he's fast, we know that, but because of the smarts. On the ball that was hit to center that scored a run, so Twins TV had that camera from the wire and left, which gives you such a great view of the entire field as plays unfold. So on that play, Buxton never broke stride. He figured, and he was right, he figured that throw was going to come home. So he didn't decide to go to second, like stopped and thought, oh, I'm fast, I'll go. He never broke stride. It was brilliant. Mm-hmm. It was brilliant because it was worth the gamble, and he was right. So I would say this, lean into, I mean, he is, and he's been for a long time, he wreaks havoc on the bases. He's impossible. He is damn near impossible. When that ball fell in center in the 10th on the Ty France hit, you were either going to catch that ball on the fly or he was scoring. Like there was no play at the plate to be made. So I think that the one thing, and the one statistic that is just unbelievable is you do realize that Byron Buxton still has never stolen third base in a regular season or playoff game.
I would change that. I would look at Buxton. I would look at Kersey. I would look at Bader.
Yes.
Maybe, I mean, Willi Castro is kind of hit or miss with stolen bases, but like,
right.
I would say, guys, this ain't the 2019 Bomba squad anymore. We're going to score runs a different way.
Amen.
By the way, one last thing, and then Positive Phil will go back to watching with a critical eye, starting with this Brave series. The Twins on the bases last year were 26th in base running value, one of the worst base running teams in the league.
Yep.
They're 8th so far through the first 3 weeks of this season. Big time progress.
They have to create runs.
Mm-hmm.
Create runs, exactly.
Hit that like button and subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show. For Mackie, Judd, I'm Dex. Be on the lookout for any extra innings episodes as well. We'll be talking at you soon.